Well, yesterday was my first interview with Kirk Bird, and I flubbed it up at the beginning, so hopefully I'll get better and better each time I do this. Want to, first of all, to my buddies up in Huntsville and to the Brew Club members down here, the Auburn Brew Club members, not on camera, he's a little bit camera shy, is Chad Parrish. He actually is, interestingly enough, the very first person who contacted me when I put out the word that we needed to have a Auburn Brew Club here in Auburn. Now we have about 25 serious all-grain brewers, it seems. So I remember Chad as being the first one. But I'm very pleased to be here with a good friend of mine, Mark Thornton, at the Ludwig von Mises Institute, which is I believe, the brain trust of the Austrian School of Economics. Is that maybe how you would characterize it?
Yeah, that's correct. We're the sort of the fountainhead of Austrian economics. We have the world's largest and most trafficked economic webpage, and it's all devoted to Austrian economics or free market economics in the Austrian school. And it's right here in Auburn, Alabama.
Can you just briefly, I don't know if you can do this and concisely explain what Austrian economics is?
Well, Austrian economics comes from Austria, Vienna, and it's the oldest continuously existing school of economic thought. So it's a very traditional brand of economics without a lot of mathematics and econometrics and things of that nature. And the members of the Austrian school generally support the idea of private property, free markets, and sound money in the form of a gold coin standard. So again, it's very traditional, very free market oriented, without the Keynesian economics, the mathematical economics, and all that other stuff.
The first time I met you actually was because I'd asked a friend if he knew anyone who had any Ron Paul signs that I could put up in my yard. And the very next day you were at my house, and we chatted, and you found out I was a home brewer and that home brewing is illegal in the state of Alabama. I think you were immediately intrigued because what I came to find out was that you have authored a book and probably, I think, are the preeminent scholar on the issue of economics during the Prohibition era. So I think there's only one book out there and you authored it.
That's correct, and it's on sale today at half price on our webpage. Mises, MISES.org.
Excellent.
And you mentioned Ron Paul, Congressman Ron Paul. He's been studying Austrian economics since the 1960s, and he's a big proponent of Austrian economics, and which would have kept us out of this whole financial mess.
Do you think people are saying that Ron Paul is pretty much a prophet nowadays?
Oh yeah, I mean they say that on TV all the time now.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing.
If his name,
I wrote him in, by the way. I hope you did too.
Very good, very good. But yes, alcohol prohibition of the 1920s. It was a failed social policy experiment. Today we're celebrating its 75th anniversary of the repeal of that policy, and the parallels for the modern alcohol issues, as well as the war on drugs, are very apparent. And the reason we got repeal was that it was a failed policy, and the government needed revenue. They needed more alcohol revenue.
So the repeal. I think there's actually 2 days that we celebrate. One is the day that Congress passed, or that I think it was an action by Congress, and then we celebrate another day, I think in May, when it became effective. So I think today is the anniversary of the day that the enactment was finalized.
I'll drink to that.
Yeah, I think I will tonight too. But what I wanted to raise the issue of InBev and Budweiser, because I think that there's some parallels. The merger that just occurred, or that is pending. There's some parallels, I think, between what happened with the repeal of Prohibition being right before the Depression era, and the fact that the government needed money, and the fact that there's these two giant corporations who at one time were battling. I think my understanding is that Budweiser went to great extents to keep InBev's product out of the United States. And now we're in a position where, with the pending merger, I believe, InBev, I think it's common knowledge that InBev would be in control. I think there's still some issues going on. The one issue I have read, I seem to recall reading, was that there's a condition precedent to closing that has not been fulfilled. There's an unresolved financing issue on InBev's part, or perhaps it's on.
Well, everybody's got financing issues these days, but a merger between InBev, which is mostly foreign beers, and Budweiser, which is almost exclusively American commercial beers, that would the overall corporation would have an interest in opening up the laws relating and regulating beer sales and things of that nature, so that in order to get InBev's whole product line into states like Alabama, which have restrictions,
6% on ABV and
6% alcohol
above 16 ounces, I believe.
Yeah, and so the merged company would have more of an interest in liberalizing our laws, and at the state legislative level, companies like Budweiser play a big role in determining its own regulations, and so this might provide an opening for liberalizing those laws, and so you'd see a greater variety of beer sold in the state of Alabama and other states, and so that you would probably see greater beer sales overall.
Right, and I think that everyone is hungry for new beers. I hear anecdotal reports of stores selling beer, and anything new flies off the shelf. Anything new, and Budweiser obviously has the biggest distribution system in the United States. So InBev wants to get its products into that distribution system.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of the things that Budweiser fought to keep out. But now that the merger, their interests are tied together. So they're mutually agreeing to extend the closing date until this financing condition precedent can be met.
Mm-hmm.
I think that I've heard a rumor that Anheuser-Busch has written a letter to its affiliates here in Alabama, the 11 distributors, and said that Anheuser-Busch is going to use its lobbyist, and wishes that each of the 11 distributors will use their lobbyists in next year's Alabama legislature to raise the ABV limit in Alabama to 16%,
mm-hmm.
rather than the 13.9 that Free the Hops had previously been trying to get passed unsuccessfully. So now Budweiser's stepping in, using potentially 12 lobbyists. So you think, and it's sad that our system is that way, that it takes a bunch of high-paid lobbyists to get a law passed in a state.
Well, it takes both the lobbyists and the interest of the constituents, but the interest of the constituents don't get met unless there's lobbyists there pushing those interests and making the pressure felt in Montgomery.
Right, someone has to be down there all the time, knocking on their doors and walking the hallways.
That's correct.
I understand that.
Yeah.